It would have been nervous if I hadn't seen this coming. Remember, these guys had muscled up the weaponry, and we know Trump's character, he doesn't back off. But what they are asking him is, you're now attacking Iran because of a nuclear program. You were there 9 months ago and assured us you had completely cleared it. But I think I like the comment from Clinton, who said, when you pull out of something and not replace it with something, you have left a problem. They pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, Trump himself, and never replaced it with anything. This is where we are.
Well, is Uganda feeling any profound shock as yet, or we can only keep spectating and speculating?
Of course, speculating and anticipating is what you want to have, but in leadership, as we say, hope is not a strategy. Don't just hope things will be okay. If you think it's going to rain, carry an umbrella, carry gumboots, plus a measure of saying, I have cancelled this program because the rain is too much. So we must have our strategy, and we've been watching, things are changing too fast. One thing that has come out of this war, they are avoiding the oil production infrastructure, because that's the immediate thing from the Middle East. You'll see oil prices go up. But both sides have avoided destroying the oil production infrastructure. They had also tried to avoid the oil transit infrastructure, the tankers. But as of this morning, 2 tankers were hit. So some have been grounded. A number of tankers have now put their sails down.
Actually, the US is very categoric. They call it sinking.
Yes.
They have sunk tanks.
They have, those ones are for the Navy. Those ones, they hit them to sink. But the ones of oil are still floating, but they have anchored, they are not moving, except the ones of China and Iran have moved. So I think America is now like, as Baganda says, Msota Gulimuntam. You want to kill the snake, but it's in the pot, and that's your only pot. So nobody really wants to disrupt that dicey oil movement because it will hit the whole world and themselves. But still then the uncertainty has come through. Oil prices went up 10% in Asia as of this morning, but they have come back down to 4%. So we are watching that to say, will they continue and hit the tankers, in which case the Strait of Hormuz, really 20% of the world's oil goes through there. That's what everybody is watching. Saudi Arabia says I will step up production by another 200,000 barrels to calm down the tempers. It's about communication now. When Trump says we planned this for 4 weeks now, that's not a good message for the oil markets. Because everybody is going to be like a Venezuela. Ayatollah is gone. Now we'll settle with whoever has replaced him, and life moves on. But if you're saying I'm going to be around for longer, then you're not sending a good signal to the oil markets, and so we need to keep watching. Already a new government is in place. Now, is he going to accept it the way he accepted the one in Venezuela? Because already this morning...
As he vows to hit.
Because he's already saying there is room for negotiation. They have asked for discussions, and they have accepted. Now, who has asked? Who has trust in who? Definitely there is a government that is coming up. I don't see Americans putting boots on the ground, meaning they will have to settle for the next best option. It may not be regime change that the whole military of Iran has gone out, because that is not going to happen. They may have to just settle for a new leadership that will emerge. The day we used to have military coups here, the entire military would remain, but a president would be changed and replaced by another, and things go on. Museveni didn't do that, and we haven't seen that happen again for 40 years.
Well, Joel, thank you very much, Prof. At the risk of raising hysteria amongst our viewers out there, how relevant or how does this war relate to Uganda and the geopolitics of the land?
Well, Simon, primarily because of the scale of the war, it is not a war between only Iran and Israel or the United States, and that is something that Iran has categorically done by escalating the war to the whole of the Middle East. We cannot have flights today to Dubai. No one can fly to Kuwait or Bahrain, some of the richest cities in the world, primarily because there are missiles flying over the Middle East. And this was a deliberate strategy by Iran, because Iran was upping its ante. Previously, in all the attacks, remember when they attacked Qasem Soleimani, Iran had responded, but it responded mostly for comical purposes. Remember last summer in June when there was an attack, the 12-day war, Iran responded, but it had even told the US, I'm going to hit his bases, and really for comical purposes. But Iran right now sees that all red lines have been crossed. And because all red lines have been crossed, it has to up the ante by attacking all key military installations within the Middle East that belong to the United States. And Iran has expanded it actually to Europe. Remember, they've even heat installations in Cyprus. So that by doing that, they are calling on Europe and the entire Middle East and Gulf states to rise up and talk to the US so that they can de-escalate. So when you have such a scenario within the whole of the Middle East and its importance to global trade, supply chains, of course, definitely it will hurt Uganda. And for example, you remember Iran has proxies. You've seen that the IDF this morning has attacked Hezbollah. There've been attacks in Beirut, and the Hezbollah and the Houthi, who are proxies of Iran. The Houthi control the Strait of Hormuz, and they're only allowing Chinese and Russian passages of oil. That is why Doctor was telling you that this morning, when the markets opened, oil prices had gone as far as 10%. So how can we be isolated from such a global incident? But also, most importantly, days ago, and General Mhozi Kainerugaba has been saying on his Twitter that we are going to leave Somalia. Why have we been very important to the United States in terms of Somalia? It is because...
The war against terrorism.
Yes, the war against terrorism, because when we're in Somalia, which is mainland, where the pirates mostly base, the pirates find infrastructure on mainland Somalia to attack, so we're securing the Suez Canal and the Gulf of Aden, and now the High Command in Uganda said that we're about to... We're withdrawing Somalia. So it gives us leverage over the US in terms of any negotiations if they still need us, because we have the biggest contingent there.
So do we look at this in the prisms of security or the economy? What takes precedence here?
Well, I think both, because it's a security matter with having economic implications. And it's going to be global, even political implications for the globe, because remember, as inflation goes high in the US, they have midterms. And the midterms, definitely, inflation is going to be an issue in the midterms. If you have the Congress going the democratic way, it will have implications. So it is a multifaceted war on all fronts. It cannot be looked at through an unilateral lens.
Does the caginess of African countries on where they belong on this war raise eyebrows? Because by now we would be hearing, I support Israel, I support Iran.
Well, I think it would not raise eyebrows, given that African countries have learned from the past, especially after the Cold War, to wedge their bets in all places. You cannot keep only with your fingers in one jar. You have to keep balancing. After the Cold War, especially after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, African countries have learned not to be left-leaning or right-leaning, and they've struck mostly a pragmatic point. Not the non-alignment of the Bandung Conference, but mostly where your interests are. And in any case, none of the African countries has taken a very strategic position on where they stand on this, because they've been having relations with Iran. And I remember the Ayatollah was here sometime, and we are having warm relations with the United States of America, and anyone really would understand at a global level why anyone would want to wedge their bets with both parties without calling one an enemy.
Well, Prof, what kind of discussion should be in the boardrooms here as the war escalates the other side?
Simon, you really scratch the right words. I was here thinking of what kind of discussions are going on in the different boardrooms and which boardrooms. As an economist, when I see the CDF had a discussion with the Israeli ambassador, I'm like, okay, a good discussion. I would be interested in knowing, are there financial implications? Because that would hit your economy.
And the timing.
The timing. We have been in Somalia, and some of us have been saying, since these other supporters who financed the Somali war pulled out, they left us with a big financial implication. So I really see that, security aside, we needed to realign our economy to say, how do we finance this war? War is very expensive. How do you keep your boots on the ground in Somalia, minus the European money, the American money? So these are some of the discussions you want to say. Let's not forget, this is a volatile region we are sitting in. South Sudan, when I read the news, I see a number of states are back to instability. That's our neighbor where we also have a deployment. When I see the drones now entering the Kivu war, M23 and the rest of that, I'm like, okay, it's no longer the game of numbers on the ground. It's about the technology that has actually given the Americans and Israelis an edge over the Iranians. So somebody is raising the bar on technology in our neighborhood. what does that mean for us? Because all these things are going to come with financial implications, and where there are financial implications, you have economic implications. Should